ancient Shakta-Shaiva traditions had the idea that if you look carefully at any moment of your experience, if you look carefully at any moment, you will see the cosmic process at work. Very much like a Mandelbrot fractal. The same structures, the same processes are in motion on every single scale. And so, fundamentally, the Shaivas are thinking about consciousness and livingness. So the thing they notice is that if it's breathing, it's alive, and if it's not breathing, it's dead. And they notice next that everything is breathing. Everything, on every scale, is breathing. And this respiratory process is an organic resonance. It is not just breathing in and out, it is a resonance that is, interacting with itself. But in a way, there's so many scales, so many dimensions of this resonance, that you have a vibrancy that is consciousness. You have consciousness that is a vibrancy. The two are completely intertwined. That consciousness. Well, if the interesting thing for me is if you really even try to understand quantum physics a little bit, you will understand that, the idea of spanda as a vibration and the idea of prakasha and vimarsha as a process, a respiratory process that is also conscious and is expressing and reflecting constantly. Then you see, that what the interesting thing is the Shaivas were in a cognitive sense, through their cognitive science, they came to some profound understanding that is reflected in the very simplest, kind of smallest dimensions of our existence. Well, here we are. First, we're this massive creative energy. Out of that massive creative energy, self-recognition, the experience of I. Awareness of ourselves dawns out of this mass of conscious energy. And out of this mass of conscious energy then, this awareness unfolds and encounters many expressions of same on many different scales that give rise to the appearance of diversity. This I awareness that is expressed is full of potential. It is completely creative and transformative. If you look around the room, or you look around the ashram, or you look around the whole property, or you look around the neighborhood, or you look around the city, or you look around the state, you look around the country, you look around the world. What you will see is a world. Well, let's just talk about anything in this room. What you will see is something. This chair I'm sitting in did not exist until it first appeared as an image in somebody's mind that then became expressed in the world as a chair. You could even think of it as a stool. It's simpler. And so we have this creative capacity. The envisioning is vimarsha, and the expressing is prakasha, and there's this constant interaction happening. And all of this, is being expressed in large measure through the influence of speech. It is thought. First it's precognitive impulse, and then it becomes a feeling, and then it becomes a thought, and then it becomes an expressed thing, is the cycle. The Shaivas thought speech was very profound, and that ultimately all speech is ever present as an implicit structure in the consciousness of the goddess herself. And the letters, are the structures of her speech, represent the structures of her speech. And that we can speak is an expression of our total, that we are in some fashion a limited expression of the goddess, that her creative power and her autonomy is present in each of us. So we can take that power and shape it as we wish, in some very limited degree. The letters represent the creative power of the ultimate reality that is accessible to us as limited forms of that ultimate reality, condensed forms of that ultimate reality. Because the goddess is the ultimate reality from which even Shiva cannot penetrate beyond, the various forms of the goddess become articulated, and the various, let's say, cycles of the goddess's activity become articulated as sound. As take the form of letters, become articulated as a resonance which expresses a state. So you have 5 states. State of emission, sustaining, etc. Reabsorption, etc. When we practice, the mantras that we do, become the vehicle by which we engage a particular state within ourselves. For instance, asking within ourselves, having a wish to grow and having that be a strong feeling in us, is a way of engaging our creative energy and dissolving that resonance, dissolves tension, releases energy, and engages the goddess in her expressive state. Desire becomes the world. Desire becomes the world. We see that every day functioning as our whole world. The state of the earth is the accumulated sort of expression of all of the desires, and the disaster in the economy is an expression of all the greed. Not the economy, sorry, the disaster in the environment is an expression of all greed. When we talk about mantras, and it's, integrating this notion of letters. The letters is the potential of the goddess to express herself, in cosmics, in every scale. And engaging those mantras, we are engaging the various states and stages of the goddess and expressing those states, as the form of our life. So, like last night I talked about wishing to grow and making a contact with your deepest place. But that's a little bit, and that's the sort of the idea of like drilling for oil. Let's drill down into ourselves, through the rock, through the tension, through the everything, all of our resistance, all of our stubbornness and our stuckness, and ultimately our egotism, to get to a place that's really pure inside us. Like we drilled a well out here not too long ago for the sake of, saving ourselves and our neighbors should a disaster befall us. Well, we drilled down until we hit some really ancient, pure water. The water that comes out of our well has been, in an aquifer that's several billion years old and has really pure water. Cool. So that's what we're doing in ourselves. And we're using that wish to grow to drill down, and we're letting all of this magic and sweetness rise up and become us. And as we grow, as this process goes on, increasingly the mantras that we use, particularly the mantras that I teach in the Sri Chakra Puja, but the mantras in the Chud as well, are mantras that we use to keep that sweetness flowing and to hold that space with, that deepest goodness within ourselves, that it can continue to rise up within us and overflow the boundaries of our own individual life and begin to benefit the lives of all the people our life touches. Abhinavagupta's idea about the letters, which of course he inherits from several sides, but he inherits this from the side of the Siddhanta, and also the non-dualist Shaivas in their four forms. This idea of resonance and of states of being. States of being which represent a particular kind of activity. Expressiveness is one state. Reabsorptive is another state. Quiescent is a third state. This happening on an infinite number of scales at the same time. So it's happening at various different, and all of it interacting with itself, gives rise to the magical display that is the universe. All of it being, the creative energy of the goddess herself, of the creative source of the whole universe, and all of it is like a miracle. It's interesting, like gospel music, but Gregorian music, the Gregorian music of, my Catholic upbringing. Gospel music is very deeply personal. The Gregorian music is very communal music. Without some careful examination of that process of changing state, it becomes a roller coaster which ultimately leads nowhere, just falls back on itself. And with the addition of some introspection, with the addition of some guidance and a context, it can really lead to a huge transformation. But, really getting it. I mean, for instance, I've been studying Shaivism since 1977 anyway. I think it was 77 or 78 when Muktananda really hit me in the head and said, you study Shaivism. So I did, and I have. And I find even today I am still understanding it, more. I am very excited about it still in some ways because, I'm reading quantum physics, I'm reading neurophysiology, I'm reading quantum biology, and I'm finding that the insight that the Shaivas had, their intuition, still holds true today. And, and it may say more about our own minds than it does really about the nature of reality. It's highly likely, in fact, that what we see through our, extraordinarily amazing and advanced measuring devices is really much more a reflection of our own mind than of the universe that we're looking at. And it's likely that there are like huge amounts of what's going on around us that we just flat out miss. So, understanding the Shaiva notion of the letters of the alphabet, which immediately causes us to think about language, which causes us to think about cognition, and expression, and causes us further to examine, our own hearts and our own minds and our own souls, is a very wonderful activity that can lead to a very big enlightenment. Ultimately we come to a place where you say there's only one life on the whole earth, and that's the life of the earth itself. We are really an apparition. We are, kind of a vortex that has formed out of, the various energies that have come together within the life field of the earth. And, when we die, we'll swirl around and sort of come back again and again and again until we, sort of accumulate enough muscle memory, or as one way of putting it, some kind of intuition that, we've been here before and done this already. And then we'll just, focus on evaporating. It's a miracle that any of this exists at all. It is a quadruple miracle that we can experience it. There's no reason. Why is there anything? It's a miracle and it's amazing. And at the end of the day, none of it matters. None of it. What matters is that we open our hearts, and find a flow within ourselves, and we feel our energy rising up and meeting, our own source, which is the life of the earth. There isn't a God in heaven. There's a God that we are, that breathes in us and is all around us.